All Black squad for the 2024 Rugby Championship, folks, has been announced by head coach Scott Robertson. There are a kind of few ins and outs in this expanded squad, which has got a few more spots in it from the side which played against England and Fiji in the July period. But we'll go through some of the ins and outs, the fixtures, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on how the All Blacks are going to go. Can they match the predecessor, Ian Foster's record of a pretty good run in the Rugby Championship? The two main losers from the squad who were in the July squad who do not get named in this Rugby Championship squad are Finlay Christie at halfback and Imoni Narawa as kind of one of your outside backs. I didn't read anything about either of those guys being injured. Obviously, Finlay was unavailable for that third game of the series after kind of sustaining an injury of his own, but didn't read anything in the All Blacks announcement that said it was an injury-related selection. So the three halfbacks are Perenara, who remember got injured in Game 1, but has had a kind of quicker than expected recovery. Ratsima, who had that big HIA in Game 3, but looked really sharp. And then Hotham, who got his debut in Game 3, is kind of preferred. So the veteran, who's like 32 years old, in TJ, and the two youngsters, the 23 and the 21-year-old. So apart from TJ, it is a pretty inexperienced kind of halfback trio, but Ratsima especially really looks the business. So I feel like a lot of All Blacks fans are pretty excited to see him. There's a little bit of question mark about the locks because Scott Barrett sustained a finger injury against Fiji. He's got to have surgery on it, but there's no timeline yet as to when he is going to be back. So they have named Josh Lord outside the 36-man squad as cover, I suppose, in case his injury recovery and surgery takes longer than expected. But Josh Lord hasn't played rugby in ages either because he has been sitting the majority of the Super Rugby season injured. So still an injury cloud about Scotty Barrett. And Sam Darry, who did get his debut against Fiji, is kind of confirmed in the squad. Remember, he was in the kind of wider squad for the July series. Well, he's a kind of full squad member this time. And he looked an absolute workhorse when he came off the bench against Fiji. So I think that is also a pleasing selection. The return of Sam Cane is one that will maybe ruffle a few feathers because he does have his detractors here in New Zealand. But he absolutely fits the mold that Razor likes for a 7. Any of you guys think that Artie should play 7? I think based on what we've seen from Scott Robertson's coaching thus far, that's not the position he sees him as. I could be wrong. He might change things up. But you think about it, the Crusaders, I've mentioned it before, he's had Matt Todd, who's a hard-tackling 7. He's had Tom Christie, who's a hard-tackling 7. And his first choice for 7 for the All Blacks was Dalton Papali'i, who was largely a hard-tackling 7. What does Sam Cane do better than most? He tackles the house down. And at 95 caps, it would be kind of fitting to see him get to 100. It would be a real shame for him to have his last game be a World Cup final where he got a red card. That would be unfortunate. Obviously, as a coach, you don't pick the team just on avoiding giving a guy an unfortunate ending to a career. But I think he can add a bit of value to the squad in terms of that leadership. And as I said, he fits the mold with which we have seen Razor pick his teams in the past in terms of that hard tackling 7. Remember, Ethan Blackadder can get through the tackles as well if he can remain fit. But yeah, we'll see if Sam Cane kind of gets the nod, potentially in those big games in South Africa, where Sam has certainly had some experience starting. But the rest of the forwards, apart from Darry being confirmed and Sam Cane coming in and Lord being injury cover, are the same. There's also another addition in David Havili. I mean, he's also got his detractors here in NZ Rugby. He's a solid enough playmaker. He's a bit of a utility. Remember, Razor sent down the orders during the Super Rugby season to see him play a bit of rugby at 10. He started one game at 10 for the Crusaders. So maybe Razor sees him as a bit of cover for 10. I'm not sure on that one. But, I mean, Razor must like him from his time at the Crusaders. I mean, he's a solid enough player. At 29, I'm not sure he's the kind of guy that's going to be around at the next World Cup because he kind of scrapes into the squad at the moment. But, with 27 caps, he's a utility guy to have in the squad. Will Jordan is also back in, which is fantastic news for All Blacks fans. The question about whether he's going to play wing or fullback will come up. Remembering for the Crusaders, under Razor, he basically played essentially only fullback for the last 3 years, and even going back longer, it was mostly at fullback 4 or 5 years ago, maybe the odd game on the wing, but very much a fullback with Razor at the Crusaders. He's returning from a long-term injury. He's got like a crazy try-scoring record of basically, I think it's a try a game, isn't it? Like 31 and 31. He's definitely a good guy to have back and adds a bit of spice into the outside backs for the ABs. And then Ruben Love is certainly an exciting prospect. Another kind of fullback option as well. Also utility. Also can cover 10 if needs be as well. 23 years old. The only uncapped guy in this squad. Maybe against Argentina he gets a game off the bench. It will be an interesting one to see because they've essentially named Bodie and DMAC as the two first fives, but nobody else. So with Bodie getting games off the bench and at fullback, it'll be interesting to see what Razor does. Is he just going to keep on with DMAC at 10? And does he keep on with Bodie as the super sub, or does he give him a start at fullback with Will Jordan's return? That will be an interesting one to see. The average age of the squad is about 27, which is slightly younger than the South African squad, which has already been named. They are averaging more closer to kind of 29. So it's a bit younger than South Africans. Experience-wise, it's slightly less experienced. The backs are both averaging 37 caps. So for the Boks and for the All Blacks, that's pretty similar. But the Boks forwards have got a little bit more experience than the All Blacks forwards. But certainly, as I mentioned, Sam Cane being back adds a whole lot of experience to the Lucies anyway. Speaking of the Boks, we don't play them until we've played the Pumas. The Pumas come to New Zealand to play firstly at Wellington and then at Eden Park. So those are 2 home games for the ABs. Then off to South Africa for games at Ellis Park and in Cape Town. And then Bledisloe away at Sydney, where the All Blacks think have got a pretty good record. And then back home to Wellington. So 2 home games at Wellington, this kind of home series for the All Blacks. But yeah, the All Blacks record in rugby championships has been very good. Pressure is on Razor to try and retain that, and obviously retain the Bledisloe. His first chance to do that. 2 away games in South Africa are certainly going to be, you feel like, the most interesting, just based on where the world rankings are. All Blacks are 3rd, South Africa's 1st. But also the Aussies are kind of looking on the up, with Joe Schmidt having gone 3 from 3 in his series, and the Pumas under Contepomi have been terrible, forward dominant, and back spinning it wide in their 3 games against France, 2 against France and 1 against Uruguay. So who really knows where those 2 teams are at? You feel like on paper it's going to be All Blacks or South Africa for the title, with the South Africans maybe having the advantage, having the games at home in South Africa, but we'll kind of have to wait and see. You guys let us know your thoughts on the squad. Subscribe to the channel if you want more squad updates, match previews, reviews, stats, all that kind of jazz. Cheers for coming along, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.